Okay, now, let's talk Stabler and the Hall of Fame. And we're going to have to lean on you on this because you sat on that committee for a long, long time, voting guys into the Hall of Fame. Stabler's name came up a number of times, well, just about every year. He was a finalist 3 times. Why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? In fact, we've got a tweet asking just that thing. Mark Fleetwood off our Facebook page. Why isn't Stabler in the Hall of Fame? He was a great leader.
Well, and I just got one from Mac, and so I'll say to Fleetwood and Mac that I know but he was doing all this stuff. It's Friday. We're fireworks tonight. Blankets tomorrow. It's a big weekend.
At Lindsey Buckingham, please tweet us.
Okay, so why isn't Stabler in the Hall of Fame?
Because I think of the numbers. Hall of Fame, Terry Bradshaw's in there. 4 Super Bowls. He wasn't the greatest quarterback of all time, but 4 Super Bowls.
Right.
You look at all the guys in there. The only guy that's in the Hall of Fame that didn't win a Super Bowl was the quarterback of the San Diego Chargers.
Dan Fouts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Fouts played with that in that system.
Well, Jim Kelly, too.
Yeah.
Jim Kelly just got in recently.
Went to 4.
Air Coryell.
But Ken Stabler, I think, was on one winning team in a Super Bowl.
Yes, he won one.
His numbers weren't that good. People thought, as I said earlier, that it was more of a team and that guys were more important in the scheme. He was one of those, what I call almost up. It's like a horse that never gets there, that he was almost up every year.
Sure.
And I voted for him 6 or 7 different times.
Really?
But there just wasn't enough sentiment for him. And I don't think, and I'll say this truthfully now, I don't think the younger guys that had come into the committee had any clue. They just look at stats.
No appreciation.
They look at analytics and go, I don't know anything about him.
You can't do that with quarterbacks in the 60s and 70s because it was a game that relied on the running backs much more.
He was verging, and he and I had this conversation once. He said, why didn't I get in the Hall of Fame? And I said, you were verging. Kind of like Randy Gradishar. You're verging. They didn't have much appreciation for guys that played in the AFL or the AFC.
Yeah.
And now you say, well, he was an AFC quarterback. Boy, those teams didn't get those old NFL guys and the young NFL guys. People like me who'd seen so much of the AFC knew them, but guys in New York who didn't pay much attention to the West Coast.
Let me ask you this.
And people hated the Raiders.
Well, people hated the Raiders. I was going to bring that up. People felt that Stabler didn't take his profession as seriously as he should have. He came under a lot of criticism, including from some people within the Raiders organization, because of his parting ways. And number 3, the Raiders traded him to Houston, got Jim Plunkett, put him at quarterback, and the very next year Plunkett won the Super Bowl. So Plunkett did with that Raiders team what Stabler couldn't. Do you believe any or all of those 3 things worked against Stabler?
I don't know the preparation. I never really heard that come up in the Hall of Fame meeting about anybody. I mean, there would be, because, again, the Hall of Fame in football should not be confused with the Baseball Hall of Fame. The Baseball Hall of Fame has specific rules about gambling, as we know, but off-the-field activities. In the NFL, when people came up, if I say this and people take offense to this, if O.J. Simpson came up today, you'd put him in the Hall of Fame because it didn't matter what happened outside the white line. So that would include, to me, practice. I never heard anybody say he wasn't a practice player or that he was carousing too much. Broadway Joe got into the Super Bowl. He won 1 Super Bowl. His career.
There were also people who said Stabler didn't seem all that bothered by throwing an interception. If he threw a touchdown pass, great. And if he threw an interception, okay, walked off the field, no big deal.
I don't think any quarterback of that magnitude would have that
kind of
laissez-faire kind of stuff.
Hours.
It's an interesting debate, though, because you could argue that that's good that he doesn't get, if you will, too high on a win, too low on a loss with the interception touchdown thing. Maybe it was actually a beneficial mindset to not get too angry about interceptions, and maybe that helped him win a bunch of games.
Keep a level head. I never saw him. The only time I really saw him, and Jay Adani and I were talking about it, I was at a game, Burt Jones and Kenny Stabler was one of the great AFC championship games of all time.
Burt Jones
he was involved, if I remember correctly, Kenny Stabler was involved in the Immaculate reception game. He was the quarterback that could have won and won a Super Bowl that year. Yeah. I would also tell you that he pulled off one of the most amazing plays in the history of football that changed changed football on all levels was when he fumbled on purpose ahead, and then Dave Casper pushed it on into
Rule
the end
change.
zone, and they changed the rule that if you fumbled it, college, same thing in college. Kenny Stabler was smart enough in that situation to say, we're not going to pick up the first down. That was an old Bear Bryant play.
Yeah.
He would tell people, and that's where Kenny Stabler learned it. Bear Bryant would say, if you're not going to make it on fourth down, fumble it ahead.
Sure.
And the college football changed the rule. NFL had to change the rule for people who never saw it. Fourth down in a playoff game or against the Chargers, he fumbled it ahead, past the first down line, hoping somebody from his team would recover it. Well, Dave Casper had enough sense to actually keep pushing it ahead. I mean, it's hard. Unless you see it, you won't believe I'm saying it, but he pushed it ahead, and then it went in the end zone, and they fell on it. They had a touchdown. They beat the Chargers. You think about some pissed people in San Diego when this thing happened with Jay Cutler here and the call that was bad.
Right.
Man, that changed the whole outlook of the NFL.
Sure.
He's also the one who threaded the needle and completed that touchdown pass to Charles Davis, wasn't
Yeah, famous play.
he? Wasn't he?
Yeah, I saw that on SportsCenter last night.
All right. We lost a colorful character in Kenny Stabler. That
R.I.P.
portion of the big stuff brought to you by Grand Prix Motorsports, your source for the original motorcycle, Indian motorcycles. So check out the newest line of Indian motorcycles at Grand Prix Motorsports on County Line and
Santa Fe.
that's Big Fred
That is
riding
Big Fred.
his Indian motorcycle.